If you're the kind of woman that manages everybody else's emotions and you're left with more pain, inflammation, and stress after dealing with your family, your coworkers, your dog even, I have something important to tell you. I'm Nancy Ma, physical therapist and autoimmune freedom coach. And for over 20 years, I've worked with hundreds of women with autoimmune conditions and chronic pain. And here's what I've learned. Your flare-ups might not just be about what you're eating or how much sleep you're getting. They're directly connected to a pattern in your relationship that nobody else is talking about, not your doctor, not your therapist. I'm talking about emotional absorption, where you take on your partner's bad mood, your family's problems, your best friend's anxiety, and your body stores it as physical pain. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how relationship stress turns into autoimmune pain and inflammation. And more importantly, I'm going to show you how to stop absorbing what was never yours to carry. So let's start with how women's bodies become emotional shock absorbers. So what happens to your body when you absorb emotions without releasing them? Let me remind you first that your immune system is your protection system. If you're feeling flared up after dealing with other people and absorbing their stress, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with your immune system. It just means that you've been in survival mode in your relationships for a very long time. This means that your relationships have been running on autopilot, going through the motions, and just trying to survive hard times. And because you've been on survival mode, you've been absorbing stress, and that creates tension and inflammation in your body without you even realizing it. Now, I know that might sound different from what you've heard, but just stay with me because this will make sense quickly. There was a Swedish study that found something so fascinating. When women were depressed during pregnancy, the risk of premature birth increased. But here's the part that shocked researchers. When men were depressed during pregnancy, the risk of premature birth increased even more. Why? Because these pregnant women were absorbing their partner's stress on top of their own. Now, I want to be very clear here. This is not about blaming partners or saying you were in a bad relationship. This is about understanding what your body has been doing to protect you. This isn't just emotional, it's biological. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between your stress and someone else's stress when you take it on, especially when it comes to someone very close or someone who lives in your home like your partner. There's an energetic frequency. So obviously you can feel someone else's vibes, you can feel their energy. And the closer you live with them or the more you spend time around them, the more you absorb this energy and the more your vibrational frequency gets influenced by theirs. So when someone else has more stress, they have more cortisol or adrenaline running through their system, chemicals flood into your tissues. So when your partner comes home frustrated and your shoulders immediately tense up, or your mom calls upset and your gut starts churning because she's overly critical, that's your body processing their emotional state as if it's a direct threat to your safety. And when that happens day after day or year after year, it becomes chronic inflammation. Your body is just trying to protect you from emotional danger that isn't even yours. So let me be very clear again. This doesn't mean that the other person in your relationship is dangerous. It just means that your body senses the stress of someone else's energy and it goes into protection mode. All right, there are 4 character traits that make women especially vulnerable to this. I see this over and over again in my clients with chronic inflammation. This isn't your fault. You were just trained into these behaviors. So the first trait is emotional concern for the needs of others. Well, we all know that women are naturally more nurturing, more giving, but at some point we have learned that other people's feelings mattered more than our own. And then we somehow learned to sacrifice our own emotions because we didn't learn how to balance giving and receiving. The second trait is that we have learned somewhere along the way to suppress our anger because we were taught that expressing anger made us seem difficult or selfish or unlovable or not feminine. So we swallowed our anger and sucked it in. Now, the third trait is this identification with duty, role, and responsibility. We tend to believe that it's our job to hold everything together, especially everyone's emotional and physical well-being. I know that as a mom, I've taken on myself to care for my children's well-being, my husband's well-being, my parents' well-being, and somehow I end up taking on everybody else's energy, and by the end of the day, sometimes I can be emotionally exhausted when I don't practice the skill of balancing giving and receiving. Now, the fourth trait is the belief that you are responsible for everybody else's emotions and that you cannot disappoint anyone. Now ask yourself, who in our society is conditioned into these traits more than anyone else's? I'm not biased here, but I believe it's women. And this is why nearly 80% of autoimmune conditions affect women. It's not a mystery. It's not bad genetics. It's the role we were given since childhood. We were the easy one, the helper, the one who didn't cause problems, the one who didn't rock the boat. So when you fast forward those childhood roles, our body is still hanging on to those. It's still trying to get your attention. Your body's exhausted, but you still push through. Right? You're in pain, but you still listen to every other doctor or therapist you run into. Your body's screaming, but you've spent decades learning to ignore it or distract it with work, with scrolling, with Netflix, or sometimes more destructive behaviors like alcohol. So all of this happens and our body gets exhausted, flares up, and we have pain that nobody can explain because your body is literally trying to force you to stop living in survival mode. So where does relationship stress live in your body? There are physical manifestations of relationship stress because this emotional absorption doesn't live in our heads only, it lives in your tissues. When you absorb other people's stress, it often lands in your shoulders and neck, like you're literally carrying the weight of the world. When you swallow anger to keep the peace, it shows up as jaw tension, a tight throat, or having thyroid issues. If your body can't handle other people's emotions or their criticisms or the way they are around you, your body can't digest their energy. And this is why you might be feeling bloated or indigestion or having IBS or Crohn's-like symptoms. When you take responsibility for everyone else's emotions, it shows up as adrenal fatigue because you've been running on cortisol for decades. So here's what's happening beneath the surface. Your fascia, which is the connective tissue that wraps around every muscle and organ, tightens like shrimp wrap. It holds that emotional energy inside your body. And this changes how you breathe, how you move, how blood and lymph circulate, and digestion slows because blood is rerouted towards survival. And eventually, your immune system gets confused and overwhelmed. So it starts attacking anything that feels like a threat, even your own cells. So one of my clients used to wake up every morning exhausted and in pain before she'd even left the bed. She ran her business, she cared for her family, she kept pushing, but inside her nervous system, she was still fighting a war. She didn't need another supplement or protocol. She needed safety. And she needed to stop absorbing her partner's emotions and her children's emotions because they weren't hers to carry. So before I show you how to do that too, let's pause for a moment. If you're realizing right now that you've been absorbing relationship stress for years and maybe even decades, I want you to know there is a way to stop this pattern. So first, you have to understand the roots of inflammation. And this is why I've created a free inflammation indicator test that helps you uncover the real roots of your inflammation, including the emotional patterns we're talking about today. So it only takes 5 minutes and you'll get instant results and you'll get a personalized plan based on your results. You'll find the link in the description below. So let's get back to talking about emotional absorption. This is the work I do with my clients, and this is what finally breaks the cycle. The first thing you need to understand is this. Your body doesn't need another protocol. Your body needs permission. Permission to feel what she's been holding on to, what she's been ignoring, and the permission to say no. Because permission to stop being responsible for everyone else's emotions is the biggest challenge that we face. So here's where we begin. Step 1, awareness. Now, this seems so simple, but it can be very hard to notice the patterns that we have with that we aren't even aware of. So when you create more time and space for yourself, you can journal, you can just slow down life a little bit just to look at what you're doing or how you're feeling around other people. You'll start noticing when your body feels tense. When do you say yes, but you mean no? When do you smile while feeling angry inside? And just notice these things without judging yourself. Because when you start noticing how you're feeling in your body when you're around certain people, that awareness alone is so powerful because then you'll start to see how their energy affects your energy. And when you see it, you can start shifting it. Step 2 is when someone asks something of you, pause before responding to a request. Before taking on someone else's mood, pause. Take 3 slow breaths. One hand on your heart and ask, what do I actually want to do? What does my body feel right now? And then honor that answer. Because every time you honor your body's requests, you teach your nervous system, I can listen to myself. I can trust myself. But if your body is saying no, but your mouth says yes to someone else's request, there's a disconnect there and your body flares up as a result. Step 3 is learning how to express healthy amounts of anger. This is the one that I have struggled with for sure. I'm not just talking about rage or resentment. I'm talking about allowing yourself to feel angry. You don't have to be calm and cool all the time. You're allowed to feel anger. You're allowed to feel disappointed. Give yourself space and time to feel that, because without feeling it, you are just creating more turmoil in your body. And so when you are allowed to feel angry, that doesn't mean you have to throw a tantrum or punch a hole through the wall. It just means that when you're allowed to express your anger, you can also express healthy boundaries. You can say, no, this doesn't work for me. No, I'm not available for that. No, you will not speak to me that way. Your brain does have a system for healthy aggression, and it exists to protect you. But when you suppress it for decades, your body turns that energy inward, and that's when inflammation becomes chronic. So start small, one boundary only at a time. And one of the simplest things that I recommend all my clients to do is pausing before you pick up your phone. When you get a text or a call, pause. You don't actually even have to pick up the call, because when you pick up the call, you're just always at someone else's beck and call. But if you pause and you breathe and you can say, I'll call them back. Even if you give yourself 5 seconds and you call them back, that little space gives yourself more power and influence over your energy. Because otherwise, you're just absorbing whatever's in that text, whatever's in that email, or whatever is beckoning you at the time. Or sometimes it's leaving the room when someone else's energy feels too heavy for you, because your nervous system needs proof that it's safe for you to calm down. So when you set up these boundaries, it's not that you are being a rigid or cold person. It just means your nervous system can differentiate between your energy and someone else's energy. And every time you practice this, you're literally rewiring decades of conditioning and patterns. And here's what I want you to remember from today. Healing doesn't happen because you force your body to relax. It happens because your body finally believes it's safe. And when you stop absorbing what isn't yours because that's not safe, and when you start honoring your own needs, your nervous system can finally exhale. And that's when inflammation eases. And that's when your energy comes back online. If this video resonated with you and you're realizing that relationship stress has likely been one of your biggest autoimmune triggers, I want to invite you to book a free energy activation call with our team. Because on this call, we'll map out exactly what your body has been holding on to, why your current approach might not be working, and you'll also get a personalized plan to help your nervous system finally feel safe enough to heal. Now, this isn't an information call. It is a strategic session for women with autoimmune conditions who are ready to stop absorbing what isn't theirs so they can reclaim their power. So you'll find the link to book in the description below. And if this video was a little helpful for you, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, because every time you do so, it lets me create more content like this. So until the next video, I'm grateful for you. I appreciate you, and check out the other videos in the channel. I hope that you'll find them just as powerful. See you in the next video.